Hi, my name is Danielle Vaughn, and I'll be presenting Forensic Psychology and God's Values. In my audience, I have Joanne Vaughn, Juanita Wiley, and Helen Campbell. Good evening. Thank you all for coming out this evening. I'd like to pose a question. Is it possible to study the mind of an evildoer and continue to grow in faith? Hopefully, by the end of my speech, we'll be able to answer that question. So many people believe that you cannot study the mind, psychology, and also have a close relationship with God because psychology is about facts and religion is about faith. This evening, I will give you insight on the fundamentals of psychology, how it relates to law, and how God's values can be promoted while practicing psychology. Let's begin by defining psychology. Oftentimes, when you hear psychology, what's the first thing that pops in your mind? A person laying on a couch with a counselor beside them, asking them questions about their past. Also, you may think of some psychic like person who wants to read your mind. These are common misconceptions, and it's okay if that's what you thought. I probably thought the same thing. Psychology, as defined by our book, is a study of human and animal behavior in their natural environment to determine their mental capacities. So basically, it's the study of the human mind or animal mind in their own environment. And there are several branches of psychology, and we'll be focusing on one, which is forensic psychology. And forensic psychology not only deals with mental health, but it also deals with mental health and how it relates to the law. Forensic psychologists hold several different types of jobs in the court systems and government. For example, the person who will deem a person stable or unstable for trial will be a forensic psychologist. Those who work with child witnesses, custody disputes, treatment for victims as well as accused, they're all forensic psychologists. Oftentimes, forensic psychologists are confused with criminal profilers, but they're not the same. Criminal profilers normally do not have a psychological background. All of their work usually comes from what they've learned in law enforcement and from studying serial cases, serial murdering cases that they usually have been involved in. Forensic psychologists, however, have a psychological background normally in clinical psychology, but as of recently, because the field's growing, they can now, many schools now offer forensic psychology as a major for master's and doctoral programs. Can handling cases such as these serial cases affect your faith? How can God be promoted in a field where so many times people don't want to interfere God because it's faith with the facts? First, we must recognize that God is the head of our lives. And once we realize that God is the head of our lives, whatever we do, He'll order our steps. So let's go over 3 different values that God has that can be promoted in the forensic psychology field. First, God values His rightful authority over all things, including our bodies, our minds, and His creation. Isaiah 55:7 speaks of thinking of the evildoer. Forensic psychology can provide psychotherapy to the minds of some of these evildoers. And what it will help you to do in the psychotherapy is to ease your mind or to suppress or get rid of these evil thoughts. You're never supposed to actually influence your patients because it can be deemed unethical on your faith, but you can show actions that are God-like that will promote could begin the promotion of a healthy faith for some of these evil doing patients that you're helping. Second Chronicles 19:7 falls under God values justice. Psychotherapy directs people toward living a life that is pleasing to God. And because you cannot speak of God in your practice, you can have your patients to obey the law of the land, which is pleasing to God. God is pleased when you are obeying the law of the land. Lastly, God values mercy. Numbers 14:18. God is a forgiving God. And in therapy, with your forensic psychologist, they can promote ways to help you to forgive so that you can be forgiven. Forensic psychologists not only teach their patients about themselves and gives them more insight on themselves, but it's also a great way for a forensic psychologist to promote their own Christian faith and to show their works of God through their counseling, through the treatments, and through their actions. Hopefully, I've given you an understanding of the basics of psychology, how it promotes to law, and also how you can be a forensic psychologist and have a successful career in forensic psychology. Thank you very much.
You can be a forensic